I actually appreciate how direct that question is because that's a real thought that we've all had. An easy answer is to do things like random encounters. I would probably not. My preference is definitely starting with the characters. Only because I'm going to assume that like my world's incomplete. I've pulled this up before on stream. Let me move my OBS out of the way. My like this is my world map, or at least a good chunk of it. You notice you're a new dungeon master. Well, congratulations and welcome. Could you tell me how I could maybe stall my session to make it last longer so I don't need to plan as much? That is actually a really great, and I actually appreciate how direct that question is because that's a real thought that we've all had. In a sense, all that DMs control is the flow of time. That's like the number one thing that we have control over. And I don't mean like backwards, forwards, even though that's a lot of fun too. Some of my favorite sessions ever do stuff like that. But what I mean is that when we fire off initiative, right, all of a sudden we're going to be analyzing rounds of time that are like 6 seconds long, right? Like that's us setting the passage of time. Or we could say, okay, you guys are, you know, downtime or something's happening or travel, and we skip ahead, right? So we control kind of what we're fixated on, what the time window is like that we're all looking at. If things are moving faster than you want them to be, an easy answer is to do things like random encounters. I would probably not. Like random encounters are fine, and sometimes sticking in an encounter is the thing that you need to do. And I've done it. We've all done it. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, at the end of the day, this combat or whatever's going on here, you know, it's just fun for the fun of it. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. So instead, when you're planning a session, when you're thinking about the stuff that the group is going to be doing, add things like combat or even just like social encounters or puzzles or what have you. Inject things into decision-making stuff. You make it matter. So rather than having a decision, like I could imagine this decision, like they come to the crossroads and maybe the party's leaving town and there are two people and you're like, hey, it looks like you can get a ride with this group over here, you get a ride with this group, and they'll either one you can pay and they'll take you out of town. That's a decision. The way that you can make that decision more meaningful is you walk up to the crossroads and you see them and they're fighting. Like they're fighting about, like, one of them thinks the king is right, the other one thinks the king is insane, and they're going to blows, and now it's on the party to like break them up and solve it amicably, but really, like, they have to pick a side. So now you've taken something which could have been a flat decision, this way or this way, who do we want to pay, and now they have to sort of like negotiate to keep the peace, and they need a ride somewhere, so they're going to have to kind of tick somebody off and make friends with somebody else. And you've taken something that could have been a quick decision and turned it into, it could be 20 minutes, could be an hour long. You don't know how long the party is going to engage with something like that, but you know, just a little twist on that decision into more of an encounter is going to make it more memorable. And it's also going to eat up time, isn't the right way to think about it, but it's going to make better use of the time, right? You're going to make more game where you have it and emphasize what you have prepped. I mean, obviously mine is just one example. That way you don't have to constantly, because I feel like what you're getting at, the crux of the question is you feel like you're constantly putting something in front of the players and they're just knocking them down, right? It's like it's like one of those like cars rolling down a ramp and you're just like setting something up and it's like they're picking up speed and they keep knocking down all of your content and you're running out of ideas. But I think sort of investing in those individual decisions and making them more worthwhile is going to do both things at once. It's going to make it probably a more interesting game than it would have been if it was just a flat decision, and it's also going to take there's going to be more meat to chew. It's going to take longer for the party to go through, and if that's what you're trying to balance, maybe that's the answer. You're going to be playing D&D for the first time. in a few months, but making a story and DMing sounds like my thing. But every idea I come up with leads to a very complicated idea, and I don't know how to simplify. It's a great question. So, big ideas are awesome, and they're fun to nurture and build out, and you do probably need them. But all that you really need is a session at a time. All that you really need is what's going to happen first. And that can be, and probably should be, a microcosm, a small impacted area of the world. Like you've got the big idea, and then it's like reduce it in size, from like the world to the region to the mountain to the city down to the town and the specific street even. How does this affect the party there? And then make that the first session or two, and then from there you'll be able to expand and start to draw in connections to these larger plots. But big ideas are great, but you're not going to need that. Big idea is going to take a long time to churn, and you'll have a lot of time to mix it in to the game. Do you think making the world first so players can make these characters around it, or make a world surrounding the character sounds like a dumb question? It's definitely not a dumb question. In fact, those are two of the big, broad approaches that different people will argue pros and cons for. Yeah, you're super self-aware. Don't feel self-conscious about those questions. So you can do it either way, and I think that there's benefits to each. My preference is definitely starting with the characters, only because I'm going to assume that like my world's incomplete. I've pulled this up before on stream. Let me move my OBS out of the way. This is my world map, or at least a good chunk of it. You notice it is incomplete. I only fill out the world map based on games I run, based on campaigns. So my world building is it only reaches as far. Now, I think this keeps my world flexible, and I like that about it. I have two campaigns going on simultaneously right now, one that's taking place in this region and one that's taking place over here in this other huge region. And I can't even tell you which campaign is happening before the other until they're done, because one campaign could destroy the world, and I don't want that to impact the other's campaign. So if they do destroy the world, it's like, okay, I guess it took place in the future or so far in the past that they don't matter. But maybe they're taking place at the same time, and maybe that's allowed to happen. I don't know that yet. That's part of the process, or that's part of the gameplay process. Now, there's a little bit of back and forth, right? There's a little bit of world creation that kind of has to happen, and then there's world creation that probably should happen with the players. I like starting a campaign by saying, why do the 4 or 5 or however many of you, why do you guys know each other? What is it about your characters that are drawn to each other? Why are you adventuring together? Do you have any shared goals? Like, I try to have that conversation when we're sort of structuring a new campaign, because based on the answers to that, that's going to impact, okay, like, where are they placed in the world? Like, maybe it's a coastal thing, or maybe it's a hidden city in the mountains that nobody knows about. Or in the case of my second campaign, they wanted to run a guild. That was exciting for me, because then I get to come up with a whole like history of a guild, and all these revelations and secrets about the leadership of the guild and the impact on the world. And their goal was to sort of spread this guild, and the twists and turns were all tied to that. And so, you know, I find the world building to be insanely more fun when it's tied to what the players bring with their characters to the table. That lights everything up, that brings it to life. Hey, Extra, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Just chatting about all things, you know how it goes. The pirate campaign, yeah, that would be. I've got some big ideas for that. Once one of my campaigns finishes, I hope to be able to start running smaller. Like, I want to force myself to do some like 10 to 20 session long campaigns rather than these big sprawling epics that I do, which is, kind of a challenge for me. It's not my wheelhouse is to run years long campaigns, but I want to figure it out and try my hand at stuff like that because I want to try more systems, different systems. It's all D&D to me, but there are a lot of interesting rule sets out there, and I want to give those a chance and stuff. So not a set of stairs that would be easy to climb. They look a little stalagmitey, but I think I still like them. Shoot, can imagine them shooting up. Looks like they could impale somebody all the way through, and I'm good with that. Thanks everybody for hanging out, for chatting. It was a good time, and these get one step closer. Next traps tonight are going to be some sort of like oil residue or maybe like slime sludge trap. Thanks everybody. Be back in a little bit. Talk to you later.